How's it going? My name is Max and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Those of you who are familiar with the channel and its content may be a little bit confused as I'm not rambling about FIFA or getting frustrated by what's going on in football at the moment, but that's for a good reason. With FIFA 22 on the horizon, I've decided to branch out and try some new content, which includes today's video, trying to beat Pokemon Sapphire with the very first team I assembled in this game back in around 2004. To preface, this was the very first Pokemon game I played or owned, which I hope makes you feel very old, and 5-year-old me was not as big brain as I am now, so this will probably be a lot more difficult than you'd probably expect. The rules for this challenge are pretty simple. I could only catch and use the Pokemon that I logged in my very first Hall of Fame team during my initial run of Pokemon Sapphire. However, I am allowed to use Pokemon for HMs during this run. For example, we don't get a Water type until around the 8th gym, so I had to use a Zigzagoon in this slot instead. And a slight personal rule is that I'm going to try and avoid spamming items throughout battles, as I want to improve my strategies in game in case we do future challenges down the line. So what team are we going to be using? Well, it probably won't surprise you that this team is very basic, and exactly what you'd expect for a very first run through Pokemon. Firstly, we have our starter, a Sceptile. My favourite Pokemon ever is Mudkip, so this hurts me that I won't just be using a different starter, but that our rival will be using my favourite. Secondly, we have a Swellow, which is a decent flyer for the team and has 430 base stats, and is quick and a decent physical attacker. Next is Breloom, who ends up being pretty clutch attacker for us, with 130 base attack and access to Mag Punch and Sky Uppercut as stab moves, admittedly not as great for its grass coverage. Fourth, we have Exploud, who I remember fondly from my childhood. With access to stab HM moves, he definitely ticks several important boxes, and is also pretty bulky and has well-rounded stats. Next is probably the most curious one in Graveler. So this was the first Pokemon game that I actually played from the franchise, so I didn't know about trade evolutions at the time, and just thought they would just take bare levels to get Graveler to evolve into Golem. So unfortunately, we are stuck with him in this run. A big weakness, as it lacks special defense and can be hit pretty hard from super effective water and grass type moves. Finally, would any first run of Pokemon be complete without the box legendary? Kyogre is the final member of our team. Now I hear you, of course, Kyogre is a legendary and extremely powerful Pokemon. However, I would argue that the hardest parts of Gen 3 actually come before we obtain it, so I don't see it as much of an issue through the run. With all the admin out of the way, all that's left to say is I hope you enjoyed the challenge, and let's get into it, shall we? We begin this challenge in earnest, doing the introductions with Professor Birch before choosing both our character and our name. We name ourselves Max because, unlike most Pokemon YouTubers I'm aware of, I don't have a clever or really original username, so that's the best that you're going to get. We're then forced against our will into the back of a truck and eventually end up in our new hometown of Little Root Town in the Hoenn region. Our family is still moving and so it's probably for the best for us to go up into our room and get out of the way. In the meantime, we take the free potion out of our PC and set our clock, the text speed to fast, and choose the snazziest of frames from the options menu. After a short break to watch some guy on TV, we head next door to meet our new neighbours, which I'm reliably informed is the polite thing to do when you move in. We speak to May's mum before heading upstairs and meeting our rival for the Gen 3 games, May, or Brendan if you chose the female character, where she tells us some stuff about dreams and Pokemon which we mainly ignore and then head outside. We now have access to the area above the town where we've been told about something going on, and we find a man being chased by a wild dog. He asks us to save him by using one of the animals that he keeps captive in his satchel, which of course we oblige. Of course we have to use the starter that young me used in his original run through, and unfortunately that means we have to choose Trico, despite the fact that I would much rather be using Mudkip for this. We manage to beat the wild dog and save the man who reveals himself to be Professor Birch, noted black doctor and also our neighbour. He lets us keep the Trico, yay, which we named Dino. I'm not exactly sure where this name comes from, but my best guess was that I named it after Dino from the Flintstones, because both Dino and Sceptile are dinosaur-like creatures, I guess. Honestly, if you've got better ideas, let me know in the comments down below. We then commence to the grind and get Dino up to level 7 before heading up to Route 103 to take on our rival May. With just £4, including a critical hit, we're able to take her Torchic down and win our very first battle in the Pokemon Sapphire challenge. It wasn't too hard really, was it? Following the battle we race our rival back home, which of course we lose, before doing some more plot talk with the Professor, who gives us both a Pokedex and some Pokeballs to be able to catch some Pokemon on our own. And with that, our very first Pokemon journey begins. We make our way past Odell Town and through Route 102 where we get some training done to go meet our dad in Petalburg City Gym. Unfortunately, we have to do a catching tutorial with our beta rival Wally whilst catching his rolls because he's sick or something. With all that out of the way, we can finally make our way into Route 104 where we can get the second member of our team, Tailo, who we named Flappy, his original name during my first playthrough, before heading into the Petalburg Woods to do some training with our new bird. Tailo, and by extension Swallow, are great members for our team, with strong base stats and super effective moves for the second gym, which can be a tricky hurdle in the early game. Whilst training in the woods, we encounter our third member, Shroomish. We catch it and forget to give it a nickname before encountering a Team Aqua Grunt, bullying a poor defenceless nerd from the Devon Corporation. We save this poor nerd from his beatdown, and he rewards us with a great ball, which could come in handy later on, thus kickstarting the main plot of the game. However, let's go back to our Mushroom Man. Having access to dual types early in the game, as well as having coverage for 3 out of the 8 gyms, is great. Unfortunately, due to Gen 3's type split, all grass moves are special, and Breloom only has 60 base special attack, and not the best move pool for a grass typing, so it's mainly going to be used for its fighting type. After a small bit of training in the woods, we emerge at the north of Route 104, which connects us to Rustboro City, which coincides with the beginning of our gym challenge. As you'd expect with 2 grass types, Roxanne's gym gives us a little opposition as we go through our trainers like a hot knife through butter. Despite being pretty underleveled for Roxanne, she didn't cause us nearly as many problems as I had expected. She wastes her 2 potions on a Geodude, who eventually goes down to Dino, before we're able to get her nose passed down with Shroomish, who proved to be a little tank against a usually tricky rock-type Pokemon. And with that we claim the Stone Badge from Roxanne, which increases the attack stats of our Pokemon as well as the TM for Rock Zoom, which isn't really of much use right now but could come in handy later on. We're then able to go outside and see the same nerd from before who's been robbed yet again, and it looks like this child is the only person who can help. So we oblige and head over to Route 116, where we do some leveling up against the trainers and encounter the 4th member of our team, Wizmo. We catch it, name it Subscribe, which is exactly what you should be doing right now, and make our way to its native domain, the Rustuf Tunnel. By the way, I was today years old when I realised that Rustuf is a portmanteau of the respective cities that this cave connects. After deliberating that thought, we encounter a man who's had his seagull stolen. Upon entering the cave, we find ourselves in a deadly hostage situation, required to take down the bird thief, which we do in quick order. But let's rewind back a bit and talk about our latest capture, Wizmo. It's a pretty decent member of our team who comes in clutch later in the run. Upon evolving into an Exploud, its moveset drastically increases and offers good bulk, which we're sorely missing in the early stages of the game. We return the Devon goods back to the president of the Devon Corporation before being tasked with delivering a letter to his son, Stephen, in Dewford Town, which is also the location of our next gym challenge. As a reward for saving his seagull, the man from before grants us free passage between Petalburg, Dewford and Slayport City. We travel to Dewford Town and do some training on the beach before heading inside to its namesake cave in order to deliver the letter and get the 5th member of our team, with only 1 badge, which is pretty predictable for a challenge like this. I won't lie, I spent a good 10 minutes trying to catch a Geodude. We ended up killing them, or we just couldn't find them. We eventually do catch one and add it to our team. Now Geodude and Graveler aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but ends up being probably the weakest member of our team, and I don't have much use for it after the 6th gym, so I would definitely have waited until probably later in the game in order to add some more coverage to our team for the glaring weaknesses we have. With that out of the way, we're able to traverse the Dewford Cave and find Stephen. We give him the letter and he rewards us with the TM for Steelwing, which will come in useful for Flappy down the line. Our next task is overcoming the fighting gym and its leader Brawly. Admittedly, this took 2 or 3 attempts, mainly because we're fairly underleveled, so we take opportunities to train against some of the trainers on Slayport Beach and also the wild Pokemon in Dewford Cave, during which Dino evolves into Grovyle, which will be a huge boost for our team. We grind our team up to around level 17 in order to take on Brawly. We're able to take his matchup down with 2 wing attacks from Flappy before setting up Leech Seed and Stun Spore in order to weaken his Makuhita, who can then be taken out by one of Flappy's wing attacks. Overall, Brawly was a pretty tough gym, and I remember struggling against him when I was younger, so to beat him without taking any damage on this attempt was pretty impressive by my standards. He rewards us with the Knuckle Badge, as well as the TM for Bulk Up, which is a handy move that boosts both attack and defense, so it could become useful later. With that, we have 2 badges and can make our way to Slayport in order to progress the story. Upon arriving in Slayport, we were able to battle some of the trainers left from beforehand, as well as those inside the Seashore House, where we're also able to get ourselves half a dozen lemonades to heal our team. We then go in search for Captain Stern, but find out he's not in his shipyard and are instead directed to the museum, which looks like it's been overrun by pirate cosplayers. We meet the captain upstairs but are promptly challenged by 2 of the pirates, whom we dispatch easily before meeting the pirate captain, who threatens us with some nautical vocabulary that I don't understand. With that minor inconvenience out of the way, we can deliver the Devon goods before heading north of the city to Route 110, where we meet May again. She challenges to a battle, and I have pretty bad flashbacks from this as a kid, with this being a pretty hard battle considering the stage of the game that we're at. However, on this occasion it was actually pretty straightforward for us, and our party manages to beat her Whalmer, Combusken and Shroomish before we make our way to Morville City. We take on the sick kid from Petalburg, who I completely forgot about, before challenging the trainers in the electric gym, during which Flappy evolves into Swallow. Not too useful in this gym, but definitely a solid party member down the line. We then take on Watson, who doesn't offer us any challenge whatsoever, due to Geodude, who resists or is downright unaffected by the attacks of his Pokemon, and he also doesn't have that pesky Manectric from the Emerald version. We win and gain the Dynamo badge as well as the TM for Shockwave, which doesn't really fit any of our Pokemon at the moment. Between now and the next gym there is a lot of grinding to be done, so strap yourself in until we get to a significant plot point. We get the HM for Rock Smash, which we teach to Loudred, who evolved by the way, and smash the rocks in the Rust-Off Tunnel in order to connect the two entrances, as well as get the Strength HM from Romeo and Juliet over here. God guys, get a room, come on. We then train our Pokemon on the routes north, east and west of Morville City for some serious experience, during which Shroomish evolves into Breloom, which won't be too useful for the next gym, but will definitely come in handy for Norman later on. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself for that. We head to the Fiery Path and go through and make our way to Fall Arbor Town via Route 113 and towards the Meteor Falls. We encounter more of the pirate cosplayers who are pestering yet another nerd. Seriously, why is it with these evil teams and bullying nerds? We rescue him but find out his plot point's been stolen, so we need to go back towards Morville City and use the cable car to reach Mount Chimney, where we have a series of battles against Team Aqua before taking on their leader Archie. Archie's team is pretty tough to get through. His Mightyena is able to take out Flappy and almost subscribe as well, but he holds on and is able to take out the big dog. Next is his Golbat, who goes down to Geodude's Rock Throw before Dino takes out his Sharpedo. Without his Mightyena, Archie isn't actually that hard to take down with the team we have. However, it's that initial bulk and intimidate ability that causes us to slow down a bit in this battle. With that piece of plot resolved, we can head down towards Laveridge Town and the home of our 4th gym challenge. During the preparations for this battle, we evolved Geodude into a Graveler, which comes in very handy against Flannery. I expected to struggle against Flannery a lot more than we actually did. Following our first defeat, I try a new strategy of using Graveler from the start to wall both her fire types, which goes off without a hitch, before using Flappy to stoke up one of the overheats from her Torkoal. This drastically lowers its special attack, which allows Graveler to come in, tank a few more overheats and then take it out with 2 Magnitudes. Overall, I probably overhyped how hard I would find this gym, and with some thought and strategy, Flannery wasn't that much of a problem to take down. She gives us the Heat Badge as well as TM50, which contains Overheat, a really powerful move but unfortunately of very little use to us during this run. With 4 badges obtained, there isn't a whole lot more we can do between major events. We can get the Go Goggles from May and do some trading in the desert area east of Laveridge Town, but as for progression, we need to return to Belberg City to take on our father, the next gym leader Norman. Norman's battle probably took the most attempts of this challenge, which shouldn't surprise you with the team that he has in the original versions. Whilst both his Slackings have the Truant ability, they can still hit hard and have strong movesets that really complement the stats that they have. I can't remember exactly, but I would hazard a guess this probably took about 5 attempts to clear, 3 of which we were pretty underleveled for and lacked a decent moveset to go toe-to-toe against Norman's strongest Pokemon. To be honest, we only managed to beat him on this attempt due to dumb luck. Managing to get an Effect Spore in his first Slacking, poisoning it and then using Leech Seed to deplete it and draw Norman into using his potions. For some reason, he also kept using Yawn rather than Facade, which would have done massive damage considering its status effect. After taking down Slacking number 1, we can easily get down his Vigoroth, which again causes not as nearly as many problems as it probably should have before he sends out his second Slacking. Again, for some reason, he wouldn't attack us, instead trying to use Focus Punch, which does actually come off the first time we risked it using Leech Seed with Breloom on our first turn. However, with no potions and choosing only to use Focus Punch, Subscribe the Loudred can easily take down his final Slacking and earning us the 5th badge from Norman. Honestly, without move luck, we probably would have had to attempt this close to 10 times, as I couldn't think of a genuinely decent strategy with the Pokemon we had, other than just setting up status moves and hoping for the best, so I'm glad it finally came good for us. With that, we get the Balance badge from Norman as well as the TM for Facade, which could be very useful as a stab move for Loudred and eventually Exploud. And with that, we now have 5 badges, and the map really begins to open up for us quite a lot after gaining the HM move for Surf from Wally's dad. I would say that the Gen 3 games definitely lean on the Surf mechanic for exploration more than any other game in the franchise that I can think of really. So we take advantage of this, surfing from Route 103 and making our way north to Morville City before heading east for the first time and heading north on Route 119 in order to reach our next piece of juicy plot in the form of the Weather Institute. You might want to call it the Pirates, an adventure of scientists. I've spent too long writing the script. Now, of course, if you're familiar with these games, you'll know that the pirate cosplayers have taken over the Fine Institute to learn about the weather, and I cannot stress this enough, as the only person capable of saving the day, we must stop them. With the team we have, we can pretty easily clear out the grunts that they have in the building with Loudred, who is really starting to grow and become one of my favourite Pokemon during this entire run, and can become even more powerful down the line. We then take on Admin Shelly, who, let's be honest, doesn't really have the barn burning team that she probably should have as a mini boss at this stage of the game, having just Poochyena, Carvana and Mightyena, who are pretty easily taken down by Loudred. Upon clearing out the goons, we are rewarded with a cast form, which we promptly throw in the PC because we can't use it in this run, and honestly, who would choose to use one? And with that minor plot point brushed aside, we can head towards our next gym challenge, not before being challenged yet again by May. Where was she when the Pirates were in town earlier? But judging by how easily we sweep aside her team, we probably were best off without her there. After getting the Devon Scope from Steven, we can begin to prep and challenge for Winona and the 6th gym, during which Dino reaches his final form of Sceptile, an admittedly very cool Pokemon with access to a great move in the form of Leaf Blade. Despite having actually quite a glaring weakness to flying in this team, we don't struggle hugely with this gym, and with some significant levelling up, we're able to take her gym down on the first attempt, with a combination of Loudred, Swellow and Graveler, who probably reaches his peak of usefulness at this stage, although we get very lucky with 2 effect spores in a row on our Skarmory and Altaria respectively that make them much easier to take out with Flappy. And with that we win the Feather Badge as well as the TM for Aerial Ace, which can't miss and is an extremely powerful move and could be quite useful for our team down the line. We can now progress the plot significantly to reach the next gym in Moss Deep City. We make our way to the towering Mount Pyre to halt a takeover from Team Aqua, who plan to steal the Red Orb to awaken the very blue Kyogre from deep underground. We defeat the grunts, but it's too late and Archie has stolen the orb, and we now must halt at the next stage of his plan, stealing the... oh wait, we're too late. See, if you couldn't tell, like any good guy worth his mustard, we are constantly chasing the villains as they steal Captain Stern's submarine and make their way to the hideout outside of Leocove City. To be fair, we can easily go through their grunts in the hideout, but again we're too late as Admin Matt, which is definitely the least threatening name ever by the way, manages to stall us enough for Archie to get away and make his way underground. Or underwater, I guess. It wasn't all a bust, however, as we do get the Master Ball, which we can save for later, and Subscribe evolves into an Exploud, thus completing our evolutions for this team in this challenge. Exploud is definitely one of my favourite normal types, with great moves, great bulk, and attack, and me having a very fond memory of using it in my initial playthrough. He's invaluable to our team late in the push to try and beat the Pokemon League. Because Team Aqua have gone back underwater, we're going to have to get the Dive HM, however the only way we're going to be doing that is by beating Tate and Liza, the 7th gym leaders. This gives me pretty awful flashbacks to their Emerald team, however I'm quickly reminded that their team during the original games is a lot weaker than that of Emerald, only having their gimmick Pokemon Sorok and Lunatone, who can be taken down within a few turns from a combination of Flappy's Steel Wing and Dino's Leaf Blade. Lovely. With 7 badges we now get access to the pinnacle of the game, the interaction with box legendary Kyogre. We get the Dive HM from Steven before making our way underwater into a mysterious cavern in which, once we surface, will show us the cave in which Team Aqua have been hiding out for the past few gyms. Their grunts cause us very few problems and we can take on Shelly, whose team is much improved from that of the Weather Institute. However, Breloom is able to sweep her Sharpedo before munching through her Mightyena to give us the win and allow us to advance to the deepest, darkest parts of the cave, where we get the handy TM Earthquake and can then take on Archie for the final time. He leads with Mightyena, which, despite Intimidate, is one-shotted by Breloom's Sky Uppercut. His Crobat then goes down to Graveler and his Rock Blast, before another Sky Uppercut from Breloom can take down his ace and one of my favourite Pokemon, Sharpedo. However, the Awakener Kyogre goes ahead as planned, but seeing how bad Archie is, decides to clear off before being even more embarrassed. In his wake, Kyogre leaves Rain pretty much accustomed to that of Manchester, and it now falls to, and I cannot stress this enough, a child to save the day. To do this we must go back underwater and up the U-bend that is Sootopolis City, where we can meet Steven and be introduced to gym leader Wallace. They begin to spout some plot stuff that is taking up far too much time for the issue at hand before granting us entry into the home of Kyogre, the Cave of Origin. After navigating the labyrinth, we find ourselves at the basin of the cave and staring into the belly of the beast, our nemesis, the box legendary Kyogre, who we promptly capture a special Pokeball and add to our team. Yay. Jokes aside, I get that having Kyogre on our team is pretty cheap, but most of the game is complete and I would argue that it is much easier from now on for us. With the entire plot completed, we can now make our way to the 8th and final gym to take on its leader, Wallace. His love disc goes down easily, as does his Celio, before we get a little bit stuck on his Milotic, with it taking down our Breloom and requiring Exploud to take it out. But after this we can take down his Wishcash and his Seeking with Dino, who comes in very handy in the late stages of this battle, I tell ya. With that straightforward win out of the way, we can get our final badge, the Rain Badge, as well as the TM for Water Pulse, which isn't much use considering the access to 3 stronger and more useful HMs of the same typing, but we'll take it anyway. We can now make our way to Evergrande Terrace and through the Victory Road and up to the Pokemon League, during which we beat Wally in a pretty comprehensive battle. You'll just have to take my word for that, as the screen cap actually got corrupted for this part, so that's why we're jumping pretty much from Gym 8 to the Pokemon League. Despite that minor technical setback, we train our team to a reasonable level for the Pokemon League with Flappy, Graveler, Breloom and Subscribe up to level 46, Dino up to level 47 and Kyogre up to level 50, which I would say should be able to get us through the Pokemon League. Our first challenge is Dark-type trainer Sydney. His Mightyena goes down pretty easily to our Breloom, but then gets taken out by his very tanky Absol. However, Flappy comes in clutch, taking out Absol before sweeping Shiftry and Cacturn before Dino takes down his Sharpedo. Sydney has one of my favourite Elite Four teams with some of my favourite Pokemon in it, so it makes me sad that he isn't actually that hard to beat in this version of the game. Next up is Phoebe, and honestly I didn't really have a strategy for this one. I just sent out Kyogre, set up its Drizzle and then swept her team with Surf, which is exactly what I did as a kid, so I guess old habits die hard. Glacier is next, and I completely misjudged this one, losing Breloom, Graveler and Exploud to a first Glalie, which is big dummy move from me. We pretty much have to use Kyogre and Dino as crutches in this battle, with Dino taking down Celio and Walrein, and Kyogre taking down both her Glalies and her other Celio. Overall, Glacier always caused me problems as a kid, and still does now to be fair, mainly due to a lack of resistance, super effective Pokemon for this battle, with 3 other Pokemon also having the water typing. I 100% wish I had access to a Manectric or even a Magneton for this battle, as they would have been perfect counters for a team. The final member of the Elite Four is Drake and his Dragon-type Pokemon. I actually have a pretty decent strategy cooked up for this battle. Prior to the Elite Four, we go to the abandoned ship and get the TM for Ice Beam and teach it to Exploud. I chose Exploud because in Gen 3, Ice is a special move, and with nearly 100 base special attack in Gen 3 and the Bolt to take some hits, Exploud seemed like a pretty obvious choice for this one. And I feel extremely vindicated by that decision, as Subscribe sweeps Shelgon, Altaria and both his Flygons and almost his Ace Salamence before falling at the final hurdle, allowing Flappy to come in and get the easy kill at the final moment. With all that done, there remains just one battle, the champion Steven. I'm a maverick in this one and go all guns blazing, looking for damage limitation whenever possible. His Skarmory gets off a Toxic on Kyogre, but we can take it down with 2 Ice Beams. Graveler goes down to a Solar Beam from Aggron, but manages to get off huge damage on it, allowing Breloom to get the easy KO with Sky Uppercut. Next is Cradily, a Pokemon I was actually quite worried about due to its awkward typing, but we get lucky and take it down with a crit Sky Uppercut from Breloom before Kyogre can one-shot his Armaldo and its Claydol with 1 Surf to bring him down to his ace, Metagross. We actually preemptively switch into Breloom, but it goes down to 1 Psychic, meaning our only way to actually do any major damage to it is with our Box Legendary. With 2 Surfs, including one that triggered its berry, we can take down the Metagross and officially win the battle, crowning us champions and beating Pokemon Sapphire with my original team from childhood. That was tense. Steven is extremely hard to beat, and with the team that we have, there isn't much prep or strategizing that you can actually do to take him down other than use Kyogre. With the game completed, let's see how we did, shall we? That challenge was intense, but also so much fun at the same time. Firstly, I want to say that I do not recommend trying to beat a Pokemon game with a team assembled by a 5-year-old. This team was brutal at times, lacking any type coverage and genuine quality during crucial battles. That being said, I had a blast using some Pokemon I wouldn't normally use. Sceptile is a really good battler and a really sound alternative to my favourite Swampert. And of course there is Exploud, the MVP of this run, probably a mainstay on my Gen 3 teams going forward due to its tanky bulk and its incredible move pool. However, I would still have made some changes. I would probably have used a Skarmory or a Crobat over Swallow for some extra type coverage, and I was screaming out for an electric type like Manectric to deal with some of the Pokemon during this run. Let me know though, what team would you use for a challenge like this? Would you use your old reliable team or go for a team full of Pokemon that you wouldn't normally use? Be sure to tell me in the comments down below. Whilst you're down there, I'd love to do some more of these challenges in the future, so be sure to let me know and suggest some more I can do in the future. That wraps up this video though. Be sure to follow me on social media at MaxDJGoodwin on both Twitter and Instagram for updates on when new videos like this will be going live. And with that being said, thanks very much for watching. I will catch you later.